My name is Arjun Sharma. I'm 17 years old, though after what I've experienced, I feel ancient. I'm writing this account because I need someone to know. I need someone to understand what happened. And more importantly, I need you to know that I'm still alive. At least, I think I am. The addiction started innocently enough. Doesn't it always? By the time I turned 16, I'd built a secret life behind my bedroom door. While my parents believed I was studying for board exams, while my mother bragged to relatives about my focused nature, I was drowning in a digital abyss that had no bottom, no mercy, and no way out. It started with curiosity, then became obsession, then became something darker, a compulsion that controlled my hands, my thoughts, my every waking moment. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. with my heart pounding, driven by an urge I couldn't name. I'd skip school, fake headaches, lie to friends. I was a ghost walking through my own life, present in body, but absent in every way that mattered. My relationship with my parents deteriorated into cold silence. My friendships became hollow pantomimes. Girls at school terrified me, real girls, with real expectations and real complexity. How could I face them when my mind was poisoned with fantasy? How could I look anyone in the eye? I became a collector of shame. And then, around my 17th birthday, the websites began to find me. Not directly, but through suggestions, through search histories, through the algorithmic knowing of the internet's darkest corners. The websites offered something the fantasy couldn't: the illusion of reality. Real women, they promised, real meetings, real connection. It was a lie, but it was a lie I desperately wanted to believe. That's when I found her profile, September 2012. 3 months before that night. I was scrolling through an escort website that I'm not gonna name, not to protect anyone, but because the name doesn't matter. The site could have been called anything. There were 1,000 like it, maybe 1,000,000. Each one a dark marketplace where desperation met opportunity, where predators wore the faces of beauty, and where boys like me went to lose themselves. Her profile read, Priya, 22. Independent, discreet, available for private meetings. Below that, photos. A face that was beautiful in a dangerous way. Eyes that suggested knowledge, secrets, danger. The kind of beauty that makes young men do stupid things. I messaged her at 9 p.m. on December 15th, 2012. Just browsing, I told myself. Just fantasizing. I never expected a response. She replied in minutes. Our conversation was brief, transactional, perfect. She asked what I wanted. I couldn't articulate it. How do you explain the hollow ache inside you? The way desire feels less like wanting and more like being hunted by your own mind. So I lied. I told her I wanted what every desperate boy wants. Validation, attention, the feeling of being wanted. She seemed to understand. By 11:47 p.m., the final message arrived. Apartment 666, Centennial Mall, Floor-13. Come now, if you're serious. Come alone. Midnight exactly, or don't waste my time. I stared at those words for longer than I want to admit. Every part of my rational mind, the part that still existed somewhere beneath the addiction, screamed warnings. This is dangerous. This is a trap. This is how boys disappear. But the addiction, that ancient reptilian hunger in my brain, had already made the decision for me. My hands were shaking as I pulled on my jacket. My hands were shaking as I grabbed a knife from the kitchen, a long kitchen knife, serrated with a black handle. I don't remember consciously deciding to take it. I just knew in some wordless way that I would need it. My hands were shaking as I drove towards Centennial Mall. By the time I realized what I was doing, I was already there. Centennial Mall had been partially abandoned since 2009. The new metro project bypassed it, and the developers lost interest. Half the stores had shut down. The rest were dying slowly, bleeding money and customers to newer shopping complexes across the city. But it wasn't completely dead. Security existed. A few businesses still operated from the upper floors: offices, small studios, the occasional restaurant. Enough to keep the lights on, enough to keep people coming, enough to keep disappearing them. I didn't know that last part yet. The parking lot was nearly empty at 11:55 p.m. A few cars scattered like abandoned toys. I parked in the shadows and sat for a moment, watching the entrance. The glass doors reflected nothing but darkness. The mall looked like the mouth of something that had died and not yet noticed. Inside, the air was cold and smelled like stale food and industrial cleaner. My footsteps echoed off the polished floor. Most of the stores were dark, shuttered, locked, forgotten. The few that were open had the dead-eyed quality of places that hadn't seen customers in weeks. A McDonald's with a bored cashier, a pharmacy with flickering lights, a mobile phone shop with a single employee scrolling through his phone, not even looking up as I passed. The security guard at the elevator bank was older, maybe 60, with tired eyes and a uniform that had seen better days. He looked up at me with no expression. "Floor?" he asked. "13, I said. He nodded slowly, then pointed to elevator 21 on the far left. "That one," he said, "goes all the way up." Something in his voice made me pause. It wasn't quite knowing. It was worse than that. It was familiar. Like he'd sent 1,000 boys to floor 13 before me. I was too addicted to listen to that warning. The elevator doors opened, with a sound like bones cracking. Inside, the air was wrong. Cold in a way that had nothing to do with air conditioning. It was the cold of something dead, something that had been dead for a very long time. The walls were brushed steel, but they were covered in fine scratches, thousands of them, as if fingernails had raked across them again and again, desperately, hopelessly. The floor of the elevator was sticky. I didn't look down to see what the substance was. There was a mirror on the back wall, and in it I could see my reflection, but the reflection was wrong. It looked older, hollowed out, like it was looking at me from several years in the future, from a place where something crucial had been removed. The elevator lurched upward. Floor 1, the hallway beyond the small window, was empty. Utterly, completely empty. No people, no furniture. Just beige walls and fluorescent lights that buzzed with an almost organic sound. Floor 2, a sign in the window, handwritten, faded, closed for renovation, "Do not enter." But the sign was old, very old. The handwriting suggested it had been written decades ago. Floor 3, I saw movement. A man in a business suit, carrying a briefcase, walking down the hallway. His movements were mechanical, precise, like he was being controlled by something. He didn't look at the elevator. His eyes were fixed straight ahead. As he walked, I realized he was casting no shadow. Floor 4, nothing. But I heard something. A sound like children singing, very faintly, coming from somewhere beyond the walls. Floor 5. The fluorescent lights in the hallway were all flickering in unison, creating a strobing effect. In the gaps between flickers, the hallway looked different, longer, older. In one flicker, I could have sworn I saw blood on the walls. Floor 6. A woman stood directly in front of the elevator doors, facing them. She was perfectly still. As the elevator passed, I got a glimpse of her face. It was Priya, but her eyes were completely black. Iris and pupil and white all merged into absolute darkness. Floor 7. The elevator slowed. Inside the cabin, the temperature dropped further. I could see my breath now, cold mist in the artificial air. On the back wall, the mirror showed my reflection again. But this time, there were others standing behind me in the mirror. Figures, dozens of them, standing in the elevator that I was alone in. Floor 8. The lights inside the elevator flickered. Floor 9. I heard scratching sounds coming from inside the walls. Not mice, something larger, something that was clawing its way through the metal. Floor 10. I passed a floor marked 10, but the hallway was different. The walls were moving, breathing, alive. Floor 11. I heard a child crying. Not a normal cry, a cry that sounded like it was coming from inside the elevator walls themselves. Floor 12. The elevator stopped, just for a moment. The doors didn't open. Something knocked on the inside of the doors. 3 slow, deliberate knocks. Floor 13. The elevator slowed. The doors began to open, and as they opened, I heard a sound that I will never forget. A sound like 1,000 voices, all whispering my name at once. Not calling, whispering, as if the building itself had learned to speak, and my name was its only word. A smell emerged from the opening doors, a smell like sulfur and rotting flowers, and something else, something ancient, something hungry. The hallway was longer than any hallway should be. I'm not being poetic when I say this. I'm being literal. The elevator doors had opened directly into a corridor that should have fit within the spatial parameters of the building's exterior. But the hallway stretched away from me in both directions, extending far beyond where the mall's walls should end. The perspective was wrong. The walls seemed to bend away from each other. The air smelled like formaldehyde and rotting flowers. The walls were painted in layers. Recent beige paint covered older paint, which covered older paint still, creating a palimpsest of institutional colors. Pale green beneath the beige, hospital white beneath that, and beneath all of it, something the color of old blood. In places where the paint was peeling, I could see all these layers at once, and they created an optical illusion that made my eyes hurt. The carpet was industrial gray, worn through in places to reveal the concrete beneath. But it wasn't worn through by normal foot traffic. The pattern of wear suggested something being dragged, repeatedly, in the same direction, always toward the deeper end of the hallway. The fluorescent lights overhead buzzed with a frequency that seemed to resonate in my skull. Not a pleasant hum. A dentist's drill frequency. A frequency that made my teeth ache and my vision blur slightly. Halfway down the hallway, I began to see the doors. There were dozens of them on either side, all identical. Apartment numbers in brass, tarnished green with age. And on each door, scratched into the wood with something sharp, something that had taken significant effort to cut through the material, was a name. Rohan, 2009. Vikram, 2010. Harsh, late 2010. Pradeep, 2011. Amit, June 2011. Sanjay, October 2011. Rahul, February 2012. Dhruv, April 2012. And there were more. So many more. The names covered every door on the hallway, going back further than 2009. I could see older carvings beneath more recent ones. Years and years of names, layer upon layer, carved with increasing desperation as I traced them back in time. Some of the names weren't names anymore. Just scratches. Just marks. just the evidence that someone had stood at their respective doors and clawed at the wood with their fingernails until there was nothing left but splinters and blood. My breath was coming in short, shallow gasps. The addiction, that voice in my head that had driven me this far, had gone completely silent. And the silence was worse than any command it could have given me. The silence meant it was no longer whispering. The silence meant the silence was confident. The silence meant I was exactly where it wanted me to be. Apartment 666. It was toward the end of the hallway, on the right side. The door was different from the others. Newer. The wood was still pale, unstained. No names carved into it. Not yet. The door was standing open. I could see inside. A living room, completely empty except for one object in the center of the floor, a mobile phone. And the phone was ringing, not with a normal ringtone, with something that sounded organic, like the heartbeat of something massive, something that lived in the walls and in the spaces between the walls. Ring, ring. Come in, Arjun, a woman's voice called from the darkness beyond the phone. It came from everywhere and nowhere, from inside the apartment, from inside the walls, from inside my own head. It was Priya's voice, but it was also other voices, dozens of them, layered on top of each other, like she was speaking with the voices of everyone whose name was carved into the doors. Come in. We've been waiting for you. We've been waiting so long. That's when I saw the man. He materialized at the far end of the hallway, approximately where I'd come from. I didn't see him walk there. One moment the hallway was empty behind me. The next moment he was there. Mid-30s, lean, wearing a faded NBA jersey. He was perfectly still, not breathing as far as I could tell, not moving, just watching me with eyes that were empty and ancient and hungry. He smiled. It was the smile of something that had already won. My hand found the knife in my pocket, my fingers closing around the handle. The blade felt ice cold, colder than it should have been. The man took a step toward me. Not a normal step. He didn't walk. He just appeared slightly closer, as if space between us had suddenly contracted. Then another step, and another. Each one brought him closer without any apparent movement. I turned and ran. I ran past door after door after door. The hallway seemed to stretch as I ran, each step covering less distance than it should. I could hear the man behind me. Not footsteps. A sound like fabric sliding across concrete. A sound like something very large moving through a very small space. I saw a door marked exit on the wall. Without thinking, without processing, I threw myself toward it. The door led to a stairwell. The stairwell was not part of any normal building. The stairs descended into darkness, each step worn down in the center from countless footsteps. The walls on either side were covered completely in writing. Not names, messages, written in what looked like blood, or what I hoped was blood. Help me. Don't come here. I've been here so long, I can't remember the sun. They took my face. Mom, I'm sorry. It's not what I thought. Oh God, oh God, oh God. The walls move at night. I can hear them in the walls. We're all still here. Send help. There is no help. I descended as fast as I could, my hand trailing along the wall for balance. The wall was warm, warm like skin, warm and slightly damp. Behind me, I heard the stairwell door open, heard the man emerge, still not running, still moving in that impossible way, appearing at the top of the stairs, then halfway down them, then only a few steps behind me. Not covering the distance through movement, but through some other method I couldn't comprehend. The stairwell descended through levels that shouldn't exist. I passed windows on some floors where I could see out into darkness. A darkness so complete it seemed to have weight and substance. Below the darkness, I could occasionally see lights, distant lights, arranged in patterns. I kept descending. The air grew colder. The writing on the walls became more frantic, more desperate. Some of the messages were so heavily carved that they'd gone completely through the plaster and into the brick beneath. Then I heard it, a sound from above, not the man. Something else. A sound like breathing. A sound like the building itself was taking in air through the stairwell. I ran faster. The stairs ended in a basement that was too large, too deep to possibly exist beneath the mall. It stretched away from me in all directions, its ceiling lost in darkness above. The floor was unpaved concrete, stained dark. The smell here was overwhelming. Decay, chemicals, something organic and wrong. There were doors, dozens of them, maybe hundreds, arranged in a grid pattern across the basement floor. And from behind each door, I could hear something. Whispering, knocking, scratching, begging. The man emerged from the stairwell behind me. "You can't leave," he said. His voice was different now. Plural, many voices speaking through one mouth. "No one leaves. They think they do, but everyone comes back." I ran for the nearest wall. There was a door marked "Ground Floor" in faded letters. I threw myself against it. It was locked. I threw myself against it again. The lock gave way, old mechanisms surrendering to desperation. I burst through into the basement level of the mall itself. I ran past the man in the NBA jersey, who didn't move to stop me. I ran toward the stairwell I'd spotted earlier, my heart hammering in my chest. Behind me, I heard footsteps, multiple footsteps, and voices. The stairwell was worse than anything I'd seen so far. The walls were covered with messages, not names carved in wood. Messages written in what looked like dried blood, in handwriting that was getting progressively more illegible. "Help. Let me out. God forgive me. I don't remember my name. Floor-13 never ends. They're not human. I've been here for years. I can't feel my face anymore." I went down as fast as I could, my footsteps echoing off concrete. The stairwell was getting colder as I descended. I could see my breath. And something else. A smell. A smell like rotting meat and chemicals. Behind me, I heard them coming. Not chasing, following. Inexorably descending. I burst through the stairwell door on the ground floor and found myself back in the main mall. The security guard was still at his desk. He looked up at me with that same tired expression. "Back already?" he asked. The ground floor of Centennial Mall was transformed. In the time I'd been on floor 13, night had deepened. The few remaining shops had closed. The security guard's desk was empty. But the mall was not abandoned. There were people, dozens of them, walking slowly, deliberately through the corridors, moving in patterns that weren't random, not looking at each other, not acknowledging my presence, just walking, endlessly walking, through an endless loop of commercialism and decay. I recognized some of them from the walls of floor 13, from the names carved into the doors. Rohan, Vikram, Nikhil, Amit, Sanja. They were all here, all still walking. I ran for the entrance. The glass doors were locked. I threw myself against them. They didn't budge. I looked for the security button, the manual release. There was nothing. Just glass. Just a barrier between me and the parking lot. Between me and freedom. I grabbed a store display, a metal clothing rack, and threw it against the glass. The glass didn't break. It didn't crack. It simply absorbed the impact and remained perfectly, impossibly pristine. I could hear footsteps behind me now. Multiple footsteps. The sound of the man from the stairs, and the sound of all the others, walking in unison, coming toward me. I turned and ran deeper into the mall. There was a service corridor I'd noticed earlier. I threw myself into it, into darkness, my hands reaching out before me like a blind man's cane. The darkness was absolute. The kind of darkness that exists in places where no light has ever reached. My hand found a chain. An emergency exit. I pulled it. An alarm shrieked. A door swung open and I tumbled out into the night air. The parking lot was empty. My car was the only vehicle still there. The others had vanished, or perhaps had never been real. I ran to it with lungs that felt like they were tearing, threw myself into the front seat and hit the ignition. The engine turned over. I drove through the empty streets of Mumbai at 2 a.m., my hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. I drove with no destination in mind. I just drove, away from the mall, away from the voices still echoing in my head. It wasn't until I'd driven for 20 minutes that I noticed my phone. The screen was lit. A message was waiting for me. A message from a contact that shouldn't exist. Priya. Except I deleted her number immediately after that final message. I was certain of it. You left something behind, Arjun. Your name's already carved on Floor-13. Think you escaped? You did exactly what we wanted. Your apartment's ready now. Room 666 is waiting. They're all waiting. You always come back, Arjun. You always come back. Below the message, there was an image attachment. My hands moved to open it without my permission. It showed me, a photograph of me, but it wasn't from tonight. It was taken in my bedroom, in my house, while I was sleeping. The photo showed me asleep in my bed, and standing over me in the darkness, perfectly still, was the man in the NBA jersey. And beneath the photograph, a timestamp, December 15th, 2012, 2:47 a.m. Right now, I am sitting in an all-night diner on Linking Road at 3:12 a.m. The diner is called the Blue Haven, though the blue paint has faded to a sickly gray. It's nearly empty. An old couple sits in the corner, not speaking, not eating, just existing in a state of mutual silence that suggests a marriage that died years ago, but continues operating through sheer inertia. A man reads a newspaper at the counter. He has been reading the same page for the past 18 minutes. Behind the counter, a waiter moves with the mechanical precision of someone who has perfected the art of not seeing anything. My phone keeps vibrating against the tabletop. Message after message, image after image. I have stopped reading them. I have stopped opening them. But I can see the notification counter climbing. 47, 63, 89, 124. The messages are no longer from Priya. They're from my mother, from my father, from my best friend Aditya, from girls I've never even spoken to, from people who are definitely dead, from people who shouldn't exist, but they all say the same thing. Different words, same meaning. Come back. The photographs are worse than the messages. There's one taken from inside my bedroom, from the foot of my bed, showing me asleep. There's one taken from inside my bathroom, showing my reflection in the mirror. Except I wasn't in the bathroom. I was driving at that exact moment. There's one taken from inside my car, from the back seat, showing the back of my head. There's one taken from inside the diner itself, from somewhere behind me, showing me sitting at this very table, looking at this very phone. The timestamp on that last one is currently happening. I turned around. The booth behind me is empty, but there is a wet footprint on the seat. A large footprint. Barefoot, still wet. The waiter comes by again. He pours coffee into my cup that is already full. He doesn't apologize. He doesn't meet my eyes. There's something wrong with his hands. They're too large, too pale, and they're not quite attached to his wrists in the way hands should be. "How long have you worked here?" I ask him. He pauses. For just a moment, his face glitches, like a video file corrupting. His features slide slightly out of alignment, and then reset. "Since 2009, he says. "What's your name?" He smiles. It's a smile that uses too many teeth. "Rohan," he says, and then he walks away. At the counter, the man with the newspaper slowly turns the page. I can see what's printed on it now. It's not news, it's photographs. Hundreds of them, all showing Floor 13, all showing people screaming, all showing the doors with the carved names. And the man is reading with complete attention, as if he's reading the most important document of his life. As I watch, he slowly turns his head and looks directly at me. His eyes are completely black, not the iris, not a pupil. His entire eyes from corner to corner are black. He smiles. He slowly reaches down and places something on the counter in front of him. A piece of wood, a door frame, with my name carved into it. The power dies in the diner. The fluorescent lights don't flicker. They simply cease. The darkness that follows is absolute. The kind of darkness that exists in places where light has never reached, or has been specifically extinguished. No one reacts. The old couple remains motionless. The man with the newspaper continues reading in complete darkness. The waiter stands behind the counter, waiting. In the darkness, I hear voices. Not one, dozens, hundreds, all whispering the same words in perfect unison, from inside the walls and outside the building, and from somewhere deep inside my own skull. "Come back, Arjun. Your floor is waiting. Room 666 has your name on the door. Come home." I run. I don't remember driving to my car. I don't remember starting the engine, but my hands are gripping the steering wheel, and my foot is pressed against the accelerator, and the car is moving through the empty streets of Mumbai at 4:30 a.m., carrying me back towards Centennial Mall. I try to steer away. My hands won't obey. I try to brake. My foot presses harder on the gas. My phone is playing a voice memo on the car speakers, a voice that sounds like me, but isn't. "Come back to Floor 13, Arjun. Come back. Come back. Come back." The GPS shows the route, a route I never entered. A route the GPS couldn't possibly know, but it guides me turn by turn, perfectly, inexorably, back toward the mall. I see the building approaching through the windshield, Centennial Mall. The same mall I fled hours ago. The same building that should have released me. But now I understand. I never left. The diner was still Floor 13. The car is still Floor 13. The road itself is Floor 13. And somewhere, on the deepest level of this building that exists in the spaces between reality, my name has already been carved on a door. Room 666 is waiting for me, and I am finally coming home. This is December 20th, 2012, 5 days later. I am writing this from a psychiatric hospital in South Mumbai, a facility dedicated to the care of the mentally unwell. The walls are painted a calming shade of blue that seems designed to pacify the mind into accepting the unacceptable. They found me at 5:47 a.m. on December 15th, standing naked in the parking lot of Centennial Mall, covered in blood that forensics could not identify as human. I was screaming something about Floor 13, about apartment 666, about a man in an NBA jersey
who walks without moving. The official diagnosis is a severe psychotic episode brought on by a combination of sexual compulsion, deep shame, sleep deprivation, and undiagnosed mental illness. The hospital psychiatrists are very confident in this diagnosis. They have shown me the evidence. My mother's testimony that she heard me come home at 11 p.m. The absence of any GPS route history on my phone. The fact that the mall's blueprints show no floor 13.
The complete absence of any apartment 666. The fact that no floor exists beyond the 7th level in any direction. It's compelling evidence. It's evidence that would convince any reasonable person. But it doesn't account for the blood. It doesn't account for the photographs on my phone, which somehow continue to appear despite the hospital taking my phone away. Photographs that show me in places I've never been, taken at times when I was supposedly asleep. Photographs that show room 666 and the names carved into the doors and the elevator that goes to floor 13. It doesn't account for my hands. I showed the doctors my hands last week. My fingernails are worn down to the quick, the skin beneath them raw and bleeding. The doctors say I did this to myself, a manifestation of my psychological trauma. But I have no memory of clawing at anything. I have no explanation for how my hands could be torn up when I wasn't awake to do the damage. Last night, I found dirt under what remained of my fingernails. Red dirt. The kind of dirt that exists in the basement levels, beneath buildings that aren't supposed to exist. I tried to show the doctors. They sedated me. When I woke up, the dirt was gone. My hands were bandaged, and there was a new message on my phone. The more you hide from us, Arjun, the further you slip. Soon you won't be able to remember the difference between the hospital and floor 13. Soon they'll be the same place. Come back, come back, come back. The doctors assure me that I will recover, that in time, with medication and therapy, I will come to accept the rational explanation for what happened, that I will learn to distinguish between my delusions and reality. But I know the truth. I know that this hospital is a waiting room. I know that I'm still there. Some part of me is still on floor 13, still climbing those impossible stairs, still running from that man, still trapped in the moment of my greatest failure. This version of me, the one in the hospital, the one who can type, the one who can move around, this is the dream. This is the delusion. The real me is still climbing. The real me is still running. And I can feel the walls of room 666 getting closer. In a few weeks, maybe a few months, I know what will happen. I know that I will stop fighting. I know that I will walk out of this hospital. I know that I will drive back to Centennial Mall. I know that I will take elevator 21. I know that I will go to floor 13. And I know that I will finally walk into the darkness of room 666. When I do, a new missing persons report will appear online. My parents will put out a plea. There will be a brief mention in the news, quickly forgotten. And somewhere on a website that exists in the margins of the internet, a new profile will appear. Arjun, 17, independent, discreet, available for private meetings, apartment 666. Floor 13. Midnight only. Come alone. And the cycle will continue. Because floor 13 is always hungry. It feeds on shame. It feeds on desire. It feeds on the particular desperation of young men who are drowning in addiction and can't see the shore. And it has been feeding since 2003. And it will continue to feed long after I'm gone. Because floor 13 doesn't exist in Mumbai. It exists in every city. It exists in every building. It exists in the spaces between desire and reality, where young men go when they think no one will notice. It exists in the websites, in the messages, in the moment between when you say yes and when you realize you can't say no. It exists in you. It exists in me. And if you've read this far, there's a chance it exists in you too. If you're reading this account, know that you found it for a reason. Perhaps you're struggling with the same addiction that brought me to Floor-13. Perhaps you've already visited those websites. Perhaps you've already exchanged messages with someone who called herself Priya or who went by some other name. I'm telling you now, stop. Delete the conversations. Block the number. Erase the history. Don't respond if they reach out again. Because Floor-13 is real. Not in the way that normal places are real, but real in the way that hunger is real. Real in the way that addiction is real. Real in the way that shame takes physical form and becomes something that can consume you. It's real because it exists in the space between your desire and your decision. It's real because it feeds on the part of you that knows you're doing something terrible, but can't stop anyway. And if you go there, you will never leave. Not really. Your body might return. You might find yourself in a hospital, or in your home, or walking the streets and wondering why everything feels wrong. But some part of you will remain on Floor-13, carved into a door, screaming in a stairwell, calling out in the darkness, waiting for the next person to arrive. I'm begging you, don't let that person be you. Don't become another name. Don't become another entry in the registry of the damned. Don't go to Floor-13, because Floor-13 is always waiting, and it always gets what it wants.